Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Live Well, Love Strong podcast. Today, I'm so excited. I'm speaking with Lisa Graham-Garza, and she is a rock star mom in our community. We were just talking about her bio is so amazing. I'm going to say the highlights and then I'm going to post the whole thing in the show notes. But Dr. Lisa Graham Garza is a devoted mother, a consummate professional, and a visionary leader. Dr. Garza is a dentist. She got her degree in dentistry and did that for a while before she had her two boys, Ryan and Tyler. Tyler is diagnosed with autism, and you found out when he was really young, right?
23 months old was the official diagnosis. Yes, ma'am.
3 months old, official diagnosis. So from there,
23, 23 months old.
23 months old.
23.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, right before two, which is pretty typical, right, in the autism community.
Well, I had to really fight for that. No, my pediatrician kept saying, just wait, just wait, just watch and wait. And this was back in 2004. And sadly, I hear from young moms now that they're sort of getting the same with boys, even with all the early intervention push. But being a healthcare provider, and I already had an older son, I knew enough to know that I was worried. So I kind of went around my pediatrician, but I had the wherewithal, the ability, and the knowledge of the medical center to know what to
Right.
do. So I feel sorry for parents who just trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your mom gut. I think that's a big, huge lesson that we will all learn as we continue to talk. So you stopped working and kind of poured in to taking care of your two boys, specifically Tyler. Can you tell me a little bit about how you made that decision, or what was your thought process to say, okay, I'm this really successful person and I have my own career, I have these kids, so now I'm a mom and one of them needs a lot of extra help. How did you make that decision?
I was blessed to be able to keep one foot in the door of a career and one foot in the door of being a mom, which I probably would have done even if my kids had been both typical, because I enjoyed both of it. And some professions allow a part-time schedule, so to speak, to still be a full-time career schedule if you want it to
Mm,
be. And dentistry allows that. And I worked for an all-female group with a female owner. We were all sort of independent and all of us were moms and we all got it. And that's what made our practice so awesome. And so I had already kind of rearranged my life and planned to not purchase my own practice right away, knowing we had the boys. So when the special needs came on top of it, I didn't ever have to make a choice. Like I know a lot of women do that. It's an all or nothing 40-hour a week job or they don't have one. I was able to go from 4 days a week to 3 days a week to 2 days a week to literally one day a week at the end. I was holding on with both hands and my fingertips because I just didn't want to give it up 100%. And I made that work until my older son hit almost junior high. And
mm,
that's when I couldn't even do the one day because the homework was harder. He was in all these activities. And at that age, their activities are during the week more than weekends. And it got to be where I was constantly having to just leave work early or take off work. And it wasn't fair to my patients. So I had been slowly transitioning to a good friend of mine at the practice. And at one point I just said, I'm finishing cases and it's all you. And I will come back. And I sort of have, but not in that same practice and not in the same capacity. So again, I was very lucky. My husband's also a dentist and he's actually an endodontist. So he's a root canal specialist. And so at the end
wow.
of the day, it wasn't just a mom's going to stay home. It was practical. He's being a
Right.
specialist and I'm a general dentist. He just makes more money per hour than I do. So one of us had to take the hit. And again, I was okay with it because I'd already kind of rearranged my life, thinking that, oh, when the boys get bigger, I can go back full time. And then autism came, and that the end of the road where they needed me so much never happened. My son to
Yeah.
this day still needs me, and he's an adult.
Right. Yeah. And I want to talk a lot about Tyler and your experiences. But what I want to talk about first, and is the reason why I sought you out to have you on the podcast. And Lisa and I have never met, y'all. This is the
Me
first
too.
time we've met, like, kind of, and I have watched her, and our community is very small once you're a part of it. And I have watched her over the years that I've been in Houston, helping other people, serving other families, giving back kind of tirelessly. Like I've kind of been like, wow, amazing. And so, um, That just touched
Thank
me so much. And I think that it's what we need. It's the only way we can survive is by asking for help and leaning into the communities and the villages that are around us that are willing to help. And so when you finally stopped working and started to pour everything into the boys, you started Autism Rescue Angels. That was
you.
the
Yes.
first
Yeah.
venture. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. Can you tell me more about
Sure. I,
how that idea bloomed and then, getting it off the ground?
I can remember it all so well, even though we've been, our nonprofit's been around for 10 years now. And I am proud of it because to this day, it's still a very grassroots. We're all volunteer. The entire board is special needs parents.
Love it.
We just all come from sort of different industries and different careers, and we're able to expand what is and is not happening for the autism community in Houston to our networks and educated everybody else over these past 10 years of how hard it is for families. I know we know all doctors and dentists, and so my friends were shocked and surprised when I started saying, "Gosh, I'm having to leave the area to get this particular doctor that I'm interested for this particular thing." And they're like, "Well, we have the med center," and I said, "It's not ahead of its time for autism. Autism, I
Right.
had to kind of go up and around and travel, and it surprised everybody. And so I felt the need to educate. Texas, like many large states, cannot keep up with the medical and educational needs of disabled people, especially autism. And it's just expensive. Our family just was in a position and started pouring crazy money into our son because we kept hearing, well, this might help this. Okay, it's all cash. This might help this. It's all cash. We were self employed and our insurance just didn't cover a great deal of autism, which from what I understand, is pretty common even to this day, sadly, because autism seems to be lumped under mental health diagnostic codes with most
Yep.
insurances, and a lot of people don't have mental health coverage.
Hmm.
So we began and we were so overwhelmed at first, and then I got angry that it shouldn't be this expensive, it shouldn't be this hard. I shouldn't be having to spend the days I already planned to take off anyway from work as a mom to be with my sons, taking one kid all over the place trying to get him help and making people understand the urgency of all the different health issues he started having, as well as quote autism. And so when we got to about, I guess the boys were in a much more stable place for me to be able to come up for air and be
Mm.
like, okay, I was dropping each kid off for a full school day for the first time. Even Tyler, he was at a private school for kids with autism. And I
Nice.
met a lot of other moms, and we had all had to give up careers mostly. And so we would drop kids off. We had that time during the day that moms do who are able to either volunteer at school or have some time before you pick kids back up. That was
Mhm.
nice for a while, but after a few months of just running errands and realizing I had this downtime for the first time, I just started thinking, well, what could I do from a computer? What could we do? And then we just started talking to different parents in different groups and realized nobody was really connecting the dots. And at that time in Houston, there were no small local nonprofits helping families and just keeping the help here. A lot of us had our kids in private programs, and we'd meet families who weren't able to keep spending that kind of money. And if the school couldn't scholarship them, then they kind of had to decide what to do next. And we just decided it shouldn't be that hard. So a friend of mine, Penny Curry, still a dear friend, we went to a luncheon for the Children's Museum. And at
Mhm.
that one, they were trying to raise funds to do the sensory friendly days that they now do. So they needed a table of autism moms, and we were all gathered. And I remember just telling Penny, why isn't anyone doing this just for autism all the time? Not attached to a building or a school or a place, just all these families were meeting from all over the city that don't really fit in anywhere. And they're just scrounging and
Yeah.
floundering trying to find other moms. And we'd go to these autism meetings, just random stuff at churches, and we'd all end up in the parking lot for 2 hours after somebody presented about something, just comparing notes and switching. It was right before iPhones, right before the internet, so you had to
Yeah.
literally get in the car and drive all over, buy books at bookstores, that long
Mhm.
ago. And we
Yes.
started the nonprofit just to provide resources and education and try to raise funds that would just go straight back to families here in town, not one of these larger autism groups that most of the money raised goes back out of the state. You
Right.
don't really know where it goes. We kept it all here, and it just sort of began out of pain for a lot of the moms, and mostly moms we would meet at these meetings that just had no resources, had no help. And we had the time to sort of just begin the process of creating something that would stay here in Houston, and we're still going.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Do you think that you said the pain for the other families, and we have had a little bit of talking before we started the podcast, and I can tell that you have a lot of compassion and empathy in your heart. Is that a skill set or things that you already had, or do you think that your boys and this journey has helped kind of shape that or offer that to you?
Yeah, I think, well, becoming a mom is the great equalizer.
Right.
Whatever you were before, whatever you thought you were before, whatever you'd accomplished before, it just all gets wiped clean as you're laying there with this little baby on you for the first time, and feeding the baby, however you're going to feed the baby, and being up all night with the baby. And I had C-section, so I was physically miserable for weeks and weeks and weeks. And my own sweet mom, thank goodness, lives close by and like literally moved in with me because my husband was in residency at the time and he had no paternity leave. So I would have been all alone. And so
Yeah.
it just was way harder than I thought and took
Yeah.
way more people to help me from day one before we even
Yeah.
had disability, just kids, just babies. And
Right.
then I had second kid after first kid, not realizing what was coming our way. And it just was hard and I needed a lot of help. And so my empathy grew at that moment for sure for just women and mothers, however
Yeah.
you acquire your kids, it is hard. And then working mothers, I had to go back to work. In those days, my husband hadn't established his practice yet. I'd gotten out first. So I had kids knowing, oh, I'll just go back. Everybody does it. Working
Yeah.
moms make it seem so easy and
Yeah.
it's not. And I just, thank goodness I had my parents. And so we made it work. And just when I felt like I was getting the groove and going back to work 3 days a week, and then the autism hit when Tyler was 2. And then the rug got pulled out from under me. So I think being a healthcare provider first, I had learned to see a big picture, see people as a whole, empathy and compassion came with my job. And I'm assuming people who go into healthcare hopefully already have some empathy, compassion to pull from because they want to help people.
Mhm.
And then my heart just bled for mothers who didn't have resources, didn't have family, didn't have help, didn't have the funds to be able to stay home with their kids. And so as each layer of my new life unfolded, I just was like, how do women do this that are alone? How do women do this? I have to go back to work after a few weeks. And one thing after the other, I was just incredulous. And then the autism hit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, how do people do this that don't have the financial resources? I had a team of 7 therapists that would rotate through my house for many, many years for in-home therapy from the time Tyler was 23 months old. Plus, I had my parents. Plus, I had a cleaning lady. Plus, I had a babysitter. Plus, I could take off work and I was able to afford at that point because my husband's practice had opened to start staying home more with the boys. And it just took, 20 people to make my
Yeah,
life
it takes,
work.
yeah,
And it just shouldn't be that hard. And then
yeah,
as time went on, I would meet other women and families who didn't have all of that. And they just kept saying over and over, you're so lucky your mom and dad live around the corner and come over. You're so lucky you can do in-home ABA. And I was like, luck shouldn't be it. This should be how it is for everybody. Why is this not why is there not just there's no St. Jude for autism. You don't get to
right.
go to a facility where everybody gets it and it's free and
I
it's just
love that I don't want to interrupt, but I love
no,
that you mentioned that because I think that the situation with our families is different in that respect. And I think when
yeah.
someone has a sick kid, or an accident, something
Oh,
bad
people
happens.
want to bring meals and there's
Yes.
we have a weird life. Like my son, I'm not sure what will eventually be what makes him pass away if he's going to live to an old age. Autism in theory is not going to kill him. All the other
Right.
things that come with it, and he has seizure disorder, he has metabolic
Mhm.
issues, he's had GI issues. And so I'm not sure but my friends who've been with me from the beginning, he's 23 years old. He was diagnosed a little before he turned 2. It's white noise now. Our situation is not chronic and there's nothing you can
Right.
really do to help and there's no end in sight.
Right.
We're not a success story in the sense of, oh, we got them through this hard time and there's
Right.
no
Yeah. There's
ending.
no
And
healing.
so,
There's no ending. Yeah.
no, and so thank goodness I've got family and friends that are in it for the long haul. But again, I had to pay a lot of people,
Right.
qualified people with training and background to help us get to a point where we could manage and know what was happening to us. And so many people cannot. And so the empathy and the sadness, just life is hard. Being a
Hmm.
working parent is hard. Having multiple kids with multiple issues, typical or not, is hard. It just shouldn't be this expensive and lonely and just insurmountable to help your kid. And every other disease and disorder seems to have a St. Jude or MD Anderson or Ronald McDonald House, or, and people get that. And we just, to this day, I'm still sad. Houston is what, the third largest city in the country now, I read the other day, with the
Yeah.
third largest medical center in the world. How do we not have a one-stop facility that is affordable for families if they qualify, and like all that, like St. Jude's? I don't think we don't need the overnight, so to speak, like the St. Jude families. And see, there isn't a treatment, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
Nobody's figured out how to do this. And there's an ABA center on every corner now, which I find interesting
Yeah.
and sad, and a bit not surprised that this wave of whatever is happening with our kids has created a new industry. When we started ABA in 2004, I had to drive to the Med Center and Kirby area to find help. I would have loved all these ABA centers everywhere in Katy, where I live. Would I have used them? I don't know, but I would at least have had choices. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There's definitely an industry now because there is a need, which leads the question, why is there one on every corner now? Because there's so many kids that need services.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that really quickly for the people that don't know the statistics. When Tyler was diagnosed,
1 in 160.
Okay.
I have a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt. We did the very first Cure Autism walk now, and maybe it was some local IDD group. And it says, the back of my t-shirt, I still have, it says 1 in 164. And that was in 2005 by the time I got it together to know these are my people. This is my cause. This is my walk.
Right.
The most recent stats CDC is putting out, I believe, is still 1 in 36. I just read 1 in 28. They just kind of went to 2018, but it's not published everywhere, which you and I both know that's probably not 100% true either, because they stop at 2018. They go up to an 8-year-old cohort is what I read, and they use public school records. People don't realize neither of my kids went to public school. So my son isn't even counted. They're not using medical records. They're not using things people might think. All they have to go on are government records, and our public schools are a government entity. And so they're open record. And so that just is the kids that live in an area with parents that know what to call it, with schools that know what to call it, that are providing appropriate services up to the age of 8 through 2018. Yeah. So I would imagine the real numbers are probably already at about 1 in 15.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So there's more and more people and families affected by autism, and just any kind of brain injury. I believe. Do you believe autism is a brain injury? I don't know if we talked about that, and I don't want to get into anything too controversial. But,
but yes, Tyler's official diagnosis from scans and EEGs and all the testing we've done is encephalopathy, NOS, which is just brain injury, not otherwise specified. He also has metabolic and metabolism issues, and he had a ton of GI issues when he was younger, like hardcore, could not go to the bathroom, could not digest, tons of food allergies. And I've had some doctors who are really trying to connect. All of our body connects, even though we go to a specialist for each organ, it's all one body. And some doctors who get that for all problems, cancer, all sort of diabetes, it's a gut brain connection. And so we'll never know what came first. Was his gut damaged and then the brain? Was the brain damaged and then the gut? It was sort of one awful nightmare mess for this poor guy until I figured it out and we started seeing a GI specialist. And around 5 or 6, he finally started eating, digesting, going to the bathroom, putting on weight. But by then, the blood-brain barrier doesn't close till they're 3. So for those first few years of his life, he was not digesting, eating, growing, getting nutrition, environmental toxins, just all of it. The poor guy's body was a mess. When we did labs on him, when I finally got to a GI specialist that would help us, his white cells, his blood work looked like a leukemia survivor. Like they were like, he has no immune system, but yet technically we could never find anything wrong with him. We've done MRIs of his brain and scans to this day and genetics and all of that. Everything was back normal, except for those EEGs with some noise when he might be having seizures. And so he has a seizure diagnosis now and encephalopathy, NOS. But in our case, our autism is not diagnosable in anything other than behaviors.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit
wrong.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I think most doctors still diagnose via behaviors, right? Is that the only way? that
And then most of them do have GI issues and seizures. So you begin the litany of specialists that get their moment to look. And you do need those MD diagnoses. A lot of young families are lucky now in the sense that there is an ABA in every corner. So they can get to a BCBA quickly, which I always recommend, and get a full behavioral education all worked up, because then you know exactly, yes, my son's 3 years and 6 months, but now he's doing all this stuff at only a 1 year and 5 month level. I think it's brutal but necessary to see on a piece of paper a side by side. This is his real age, but this is developmentally where he's at. And that's a BCBA eval. But you still need an MD, developmental pediatrician, neurologist, psychiatrist, to add all the official diagnoses. And then you're able to attack all of it from all the options. If you do have insurance coverage, you need those medical diagnoses to try to get
Right.
any coverage. More
Mhm.
than likely, if your child is severe enough that you're getting a diagnosis, before the age of 5, they probably have other metabolic stuff going on or other neurological things. And you should just, if you're able to, do the specialist round. I call it. It was exhausting and horrible and sad, but knowledge is power, and you just need to know what's going on with your child.
Yeah, I love that. I say that a lot. Knowledge is power. And you talked about that it is brutal, but like you need to know the truth. And one of the things that I always talk about living this life with our kids, this journey, is that there's just so much duality in it, right? Like there is, like I say, Mary Elizabeth is the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I mean that. And how can I mean that? Well, because we live in a completely dual world. Like nothing is black or white in my world anymore. And I think that that raising her and going through the experience and journey of like healing and mothering her and
All of that. Yes, I
advocating for
totally
her
agree.
was was really beneficial in me being able to see that, of being able to see the good and the bad in things. And so can we talk just a little bit about how do you deal with that? Because to me it's confusing, right? Because like we could
And it's exhausting. It's
and
exhausting.
it's exhausting, yeah. And we could have the best day ever, and then we come home and have a seizure. And in
Mm-hmm.
the old days, before I did a lot of work on myself and before I started really learning how to handle and manage and live this life in the best, healthiest way possible, that would destroy me. And so then I would forget about the great day that we had.
Well,
And
it's
I would,
understandable. Most moms will tell you they're only as happy as their unhappiest child. So if your unhappiest child is literally having a seizure, having a medical crisis, that for most typical people with typical kids would do them in. Just one. I mean, I remember when
yep,
my friends couldn't believe how often I had to hold my poor kid down for blood draws. Some of their children had gone to junior high, never needed a blood draw. I mean, I don't even know what typical well visits entail, and why
right,
would you
me
not get a
either.
blood draw? I think normal healthy children don't need blood draws till things are not right, until they're older. And so and I just kind of forgot that
Yeah.
was not their reality. um my husband likes a line from a movie that says, a woman's referring to her daughter, and she says, "You are my greatest joy and my greatest sorrow." And that is definitely Tyler, and would be my older son if something chronic happened to him as well.
Right.
But right now Tyler is more of the sorrow with, and it just intertwines into everything. And
Right.
I used to have autism mom friends when our kids were all younger that would just look at me and say, "When is this nightmare going to be over?" And I would
Mhm.
say, "It's never. As long as they're alive and we're alive, it's not," which means you need to quit wasting energy on waiting for the finish line. You're wasting energy and time that we don't have. Like, I only have X amount of energy in a day, emotional and physical. And if you're waiting for something that's never going to happen, you're wasting that energy. It's precious energy that's so hard. And this was a working mom, and her marriage was suffering and all that. And she was like, and her daughter was physically just miserable, severe
Mhm.
autism, and would hurt herself. Watching your own child hurt themselves is a special kind of hell I wouldn't wish on anybody. And she was just like, "When is this nightmare going to end?" And I remember telling her, that's your problem right there. Step one, it's never. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not. So this is our life over and over and over. So quit waiting for it to change. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you got to learn to live in and around it, or
So
you're
good.
not going to make it.
Yeah.
And but again, it comes back to, do you have help? So one of the things that I felt almost guilty about in the early years was
Mhm.
my friends would say, "How are you here?" "Oh, my mom has Tyler. My mom got Tyler for me. My mom's feeding Tyler." Or my mom got Ryan and
Mhm.
their dad got Tyler. Like it took
Right.
7 of us for me to be out for a few hours without a kid when they were little. And I had so much help. And then I just felt guilty for these autism moms I would meet that they couldn't wrap their brains around anybody in their family willing to come over. And my mom used to sleep with my son in the early days of
Yeah.
me trying to get up and go be a dentist the next day. And
Right.
I had overnight care that I didn't have to pay for all the time. And it was his grandma. I mean, you can't, that's the best. And
Yeah.
she's
Right.
a,
Yeah.
she's a baby mom. It broke her heart, but she was there for all of it. And so really out of the just almost guilt of how
Hmm.
well I was able to maneuver this new hard life I was in, I felt obligated to help others that I saw just drowning. And
Yeah.
so, but the just picture joy always intertwined with a little bit of grief when you have our life. And the sooner you just get used to that weight and don't expect it to be separate, then you
Yeah.
really can enjoy the joy a smidge more because you know it's always going to have a tinge of my older
Right.
son just got married last fall. And you know, the entire wedding, I told my husband, we're not doing this here, but you and I both know in our minds the whole time we'll never get to watch Tyler do this. So we
Yeah.
couldn't even just 120% be joyous at our son's wedding, who we love, the girl he married, and it was a wonderful evening. Tyler was there for some of it. I did have help to get him out early so I could just finish the end of the night. It was a long day. But when he was there for the family part of it and the ceremony and all that, there was sadness. I had to have 2 people helping me with him during the
Yeah.
reception and during the ceremony to just be able to be mother of the groom and not have
Right.
to be also Tyler's mom at that moment. So it's where people don't realize. I mean, how many people have to go to their 24-year-old's wedding with helpers for their 22-year-old
Yeah.
to
No.
have,
Right.
to have
Yeah.
him there? It's just people just don't realize
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's always mixed with the joy is always mixed with some sort of sadness for me as
and
well.
it just is. I mean, I don't think until if I make it to heaven and my
Hmm.
guys are there, whatever that's going to be like, I'm assuming there will only be joy because I am a religious person. But on this in this life, and but again, I do feel lucky and blessed even with this life because of
Right.
how
Yeah.
we've made it work so far and
Yeah.
what we can do for others. So,
Right. And I
and
was
that's
going to
where
say,
and
you're
that's where
doing it.
I
And
love the kind words about the nonprofit, and I accept and appreciate all the oh, that's so great. But let me tell you what, it was a place to put my grief and pain. I had a couple months of some downtime, and you can only go to lunch and shop and eat so much with friends before you just feel like I just couldn't shake. What do I do with this time that now I've been given? I've had a few hours in the day that I'm not swamped, and we
Mhm.
just my girlfriend and I got some moms, and we all were in a position to help others, and it was where we put our pain. And
Yeah.
it's still to this day. I mean, yes, there's days I can't go to sleep at night if my husband begs me not to look at nonprofit emails after 7 o'clock because we get some horrible, horrible, please help us, horrible things we're
Right. Yeah.
saying. And then
Yeah.
I'm all upset. And then I start calling people at 10 at night. And Rick's like, oh my gosh, stop. Like, now you're going to be up all night worrying about this. But so there are days that I probably should have not done something for the nonprofit and just taken care of my family. But it's hard to separate because it gave me
Yeah.
but my pain for so long, though.
It's how you survived. It's how you got through it. And I think like what I always think about, and this is for regular people, not special needs moms,
For
not any,
regular people.
right? Just regular people.
Regular people.
They say when you're sad or when you are feeling hopeless or, when you're at that point,
Do
the
something.
antidote is to do something for someone else. And I
Agree.
when you help someone else, you can't help but feel better. And I don't necessarily know, people feel better in different ways, but like it feels better. And then I have found like as I'm connecting with these other moms, just a 5 minute, 10 minute, 20-minute conversation with someone who understands, who can see and hear and understand me makes me feel better as well. And so it makes sense in that respect to like pour your time and energy back into the community and to create communities and villages that don't exist yet to support not just you, but like, yeah, the other mamas. And so,
We do need each other. I mean, it takes a village to be a mom,
Hmm.
It takes a village to be a special needs mom. And
Yeah.
now I've entered in this new season. So I've always been lucky and had some mentors ahead of me.
Hmm.
And some of them help with the nonprofit still. I've entered my 50s. My sons are in their 20s because I didn't have them until I was in my 30s because of school.
Hmm.
So these moms ahead of me are in their 60s now. Their kids could be in their 30s, and I'm looking at the future, and it's hard. I mean, it's not great. There are very few adult resources. Residentials are crazy expensive, forever. I don't know how long
Right.
Tyler's going to live. I don't know what medical care he's going to need. These guys are hard. These are not easy people to watch. And, my son still, we got to about a 7-year old developmentally, which was great from where we started, but
Right.
someone is with him all the time. He still is not on his own, and he'll never
Yeah.
drive. He'll never be able to take care of himself. He still needs help in the bathroom sometimes. We brush his teeth at night. We let him do it. Then we take over, just like you should for a typical 7-year old.
Yeah.
It's just it's every day, all the time, and who's going to do it as good as we will, right? Even if we had
Right.
all the money in the world to throw at the next. So that's the pain of that now, and I'm seeing this next season, and it's not great. It's hard, and there's this wave of them coming through that are about to age out, and we're going to see what that looks like as they go
Yeah.
through their next few decades of life. So it's hard.
Yeah, it is very hard. And I'm hoping that the greater community and the greater village can see that at some point. And so I feel like now, as more and more children and families are affected, uh,
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
and I don't like that statistic, but then also it's helpful because once you know, you can't turn away. Like at least, it's been my experience is like if I see another mama who has a kiddo like mine or a kiddo like yours, my heart is immediately with them, 100%. I can't turn that off.
and
And so,
an industry, just like these behavior clinics, coming up with quality residential for these large men mostly that are going to outlive and maybe outgrow their parents' ability to care for them. It's a business. So good quality people need to start looking at this as future business models. Parents are doing it all over the country, and it's expensive, but it will work if done correctly. And
all right.
got to get government to chip in, and corporations understand the need. We're trying and getting the word out, but sadly, I think everybody knows somebody now, which is
Yeah.
good. I can't go anywhere. My husband and I, the last family trip we took, the stewardess was trying to like not make it obvious, but was asking me questions because she had a kid at home and she could see Tyler, and it's everywhere. Like I can't go
Yeah.
anywhere. And so
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
everywhere. And we
Yeah.
take to everywhere. We've worked with him so much that we're able to take him, and we just refuse to not take him places. And so
Yeah, that's good.
we,
Yeah, I like to bring Mary Elizabeth out and about.
we travel sometimes. Like we love to go to Disney World with him in the off times around. We pull him during the week, and we
Right.
don't travel a lot during the hardcore summer because it's so crowded.
Mhm.
Go to Colorado. He loves going. He flies on a plane, and we managed. But everywhere we go, when we have him out about, I can just somebody comes up to me later in a restaurant or something. Oh, my sister's kid or my cleaning lady's kid, or
Yeah.
how is he behaving? Like hers doesn't behave at all. And I'm like, well, he wasn't always like this. She didn't
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that leads me to my next question and maybe our last question. What advice do you have for new moms?
have.
Let's say there are two categories. There's the kind like you who know in their gut something's wrong and they don't have a diagnosis yet, but they're headed in that direction. Or let's say their child or their baby is severe enough to have a diagnosis pretty early on.
And
Um,
move.
what are the first three things they need to do? Like what would you think is most important?
Well, educate yourself, which we all have these iPhones now and computers and stuff at home, which I didn't have when my boy was diagnosed. So it's a little bit easier, but also horrible to go down those rabbit holes because there is a
Right.
lot of information out there.
Right.
So educate yourself, figure out your kids' most immediate needs,
Mhm.
and include your village, include your family, include your spouse, include. I think a lot of times I know I started that way too. Just one person at a time at the appointment, usually the mom.
Mhm.
I bring as many people as you can with you. The more ears hearing it, taking notes, processing what's happening together as a group because it's going to affect everybody eventually.
Good advice.
Um,
The bringing
so
other people, taking notes, getting different ears to listen. That is excellent advice.
let me go hear what's happening. And then, because people have to take off work, people have to, I'd say take them from the beginning. If I had known from the very beginning, this wasn't going away, this was
Mhm.
life, this was so big. But I'm mom. I took off first and started doing all the appointments. And then I try to come back and articulate. And especially when they're really little, little
Mhm.
just all look like they have autism at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So it's very easy, especially for the parent that's not around them too much, go, oh, they're just tired, or oh, you need to discipline more. So
Mhm.
the more people that go and hear the professionals and ask the questions and start to have to really accept this is happening and this is real and this has a name, the better
Right.
when they're so little.
I like that. Okay, so educate yourself, enlist help to educate yourself, bring people. And I feel like that segues into build your community, right? Because that's what you've done. It's what I've done. It's what every mom that I know who, I mean, we're all hanging on by thread some days, but it's every mom that I know who's having good days and living and seeing the hope and the love and is build your own village because it's been my experience. They're not going to build it for you. They're not building it for us, unfortunately, yet. We're hoping
At least
Dr. Graham-Garza is going to get them to build those facilities for long-term care. But we have to kind of create it ourselves or seek out something that's already existing and join it. So Autism Mom here in Houston, what organizations, what groups should they look into first?
sadly, there still is not a lot in the sense of I don't have a lot to say except for Autism Rescue Angels, and there's another nonprofit in Harris County only called No Autism, KN.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a Fort Bend specific called Hope for Three.
Yeah, no hope for three.
Hope for Three, I will say, in Fort Bend County tends to do more community village stuff. I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
do, and we're kind of older for a lot of the stuff they do with the young, but there's community. If you're using public school services, I don't know how moms connect with each other as easily, but in private schools, they had us do coffees once a week there on property, and they would bring in speakers. And so use your school you're at. If you're going straight to an ABA center, I've been told it's been so long for us that they do offer like speakers that come in and will discuss OT integrated into APA. And so and you just we would talk in parking lots, these women all with the
Yeah,
same panic, like what's
yeah.
happening, like just you I would, if there's going to be some people that might be private and don't want to talk or just don't have the time and energy to do it, and there's going to be some that do, find each other, switch phone numbers. There's so many meetings in the area that we used to have pre-COVID that I'm not quite sure what meets in person anymore. There might be more Zooms than I'm aware of. There's
Mm-hmm.
Facebook groups. I will say that I have not found the Autism Society of America to have a strong Houston presence yet. Their main office is out of Austin. If
Mm-hmm.
there are moms meeting of young kids through that group, I'm just unaware. That doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
Um, and
But
that's
there are places, yeah, there are several places to look into and to seek out here in Houston, and then there's online support. Okay.
people who live near you. I drove all over in the beginning because we didn't have the internet and iPhones at the time. But if you're in the suburbs, in the middle of town, inside the loop, just there's got to be women of kids with different disabilities. Doesn't have to just be all autism all the time. Whose
Mhm.
lives have been upended, and some are younger or older than you maybe, and you all just find your people and don't be afraid to do coffee times. There are groups that have kind of splintered off from some of these day programs and private schools in town. And I don't believe they're just exclusive, but you just have to know about them. And if you're not, emails and such. But I would like to think that all these ABA centers popping up everywhere, who mostly only work with kids up to the age of 10, since that's what most insurances will cover,
Mhm.
for the new younger moms way behind me, I would like to think they'd be your one-stop shopping as far as willing to share info, or you're seeing other moms coming and going. You just got to be ready, be receptive to meet other people and swap stories. And there's going to be a lot of tears. I remember those early years, everybody was always crying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cried out now, unless something
Yeah.
critical is happening at the moment. And I used to, I remember literal the first year, I was trying to figure out what was happening. Other than work, I quit wearing makeup because I cried so much so often. It just was like, why bother? So I didn't even, I started leaving the house looking like I just rolled out of bed because it didn't do me any good to get fixed up. I was about to get so upset about something. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice though. And it is, it's a hard truth, right? I mean, that is what happens when you have a kid and you get that diagnosis and you have to go about that life. And so I think that's good advice. So get educated, find your group, find your village, find your people. And then the other thing we talked about, I just want you to say a few more words on it. Trust your mom gut. Trust your mom gut.
trust your mom gut. Remember that if you are fortunate enough to be paying for services or even getting quote free services through public education and such, because that is still your tax dollars, these are people you are choosing to work with your child. So at some point, if your gut is just this isn't working, trust it. Even somebody that out degrees you and knows more, they know what they know, but you know what you're living with at home and what you're seeing. And there's so many people out there nowadays, for better or worse, that deal with autism. Find somebody else that you feel connects more or is listening to you better. I used to reevaluate everybody I was paying and everything I was doing for Tyler every 6 months because
Like
if I was going well, they're progressing, they're changing, which is what you're wanting. And
Mhm.
and unlike typical children where you can kind of stretch a school year out and sort of regroup and backpedal and forward, we didn't have that kind of time and we were paying a lot. So every 6 months, I was the first to be like, okay, this OT just isn't working anymore. Like I'm going to switch either full centers or ask for a different provider or they work for you in some way, shape, or form, even if you're not paying them directly. So if you think of it that way versus people telling you what you should be doing with your kid,
Yeah.
if it doesn't feel right, don't
Mhm.
find it. Yes, it's extra work, time, and energy, but go get an advice somewhere else. Ask for another opinion. I just sort of had to reevaluate. But again, it's easy for me to say, so to speak, because I had help driving other kid to the other part of town. If the new OT wasn't, my sons were usually about 30 minutes apart from each other at
Yeah.
all between
Yeah.
school friends. And I just didn't even worry about convenience at one point. It was which kid needs to go where for what.
Yeah.
And we've driven all over the place. So if you're able to step back and just sort of reevaluate everything every 6 to 9 months, trust your gut, you know your kid best. I used to meet moms and they would just be breaking down because we wasted a whole school year. Don't.
Don't do.
At some
No.
point, you knew it wasn't working. Life happens, your job, holidays, all of a sudden, other kids, I get it. But that guilt and remorse just eats you up. So just trust your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, Lisa, is there anything else to add or anything that you want to say
No,
that
thank,
we didn't
thank
cover?
Yes, thank you for beginning conversations. I do hope it helps new younger moms. I had nothing like this
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
I had to physically get like 17 people at my house, take a shower, drive into the med center, go to a meeting, come back. So this is much more convenient for people to begin just hearing reassurances of what they might already be thinking, having their spouses or family members here, and so that it's not just you.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for sharing because you are like we said before, you're the OG mom and you have this knowledge and wisdom and experience that you've lived through and that you've learned. And so now you're sharing. And so I really appreciate that because if
No problem.
someone would have told me when Mary Elizabeth was 2 and 3 and 4 that I was the expert, that the doc, like, that I trump that. Like if something feels not right, that a doctor, an expert, someone with a lot of letters behind their name was saying, I didn't know that. And so these new moms that are listening to this will hopefully take that as truth and trust you as a mom who's been there, done that, and know that you are in charge of your child's health and well-being, and you're the expert. And so yeah, you make the call and you make the decisions. And every 6 months is a good recommendation evaluating. Yeah, because things move quickly and you're either making progress
Mhm.
or you're, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Okay.
for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed it. And we're going to talk again. Lisa and our
Yes.
friends now. So.
We're friends.
All right. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.